Hello, brothers. Lately, some people have been posting a bunch of videos that are critical of people who are supportive of the Ukrainians defending themselves against the Russian invader. At the beginning stage of the war, Ukraine was not mobilized. I was living there. I know. Russia fucking decided to come in all on their own for their own selfish reasons because Putin wants to reestablish the boundaries of the former Russian Empire. He's not a fucking good guy. I know he seems like he's based. And by God, his views opposing the degradation and depravity of the West, I actually share. But he is a bloodthirsty oligarch. And every single one of those people over there who are fighting for the Russian side are conscripts, men who had no choice. The Russians thought they could come in and kick the Ukrainians' ass. That did not happen. The Ukrainians beat the fuck out of them in the north and booted them away from Kiev. They held them to a stalemate, and now they're advancing again. Russia is fucking losing. They have lost 20% of their armor. They are not even able to pay their fucking soldiers these days, and morale is awful. And my friends and relatives in Ukraine are kicking their ass. I have one friend whose mother is an Olympic shooter. She is 54 years old, 1 year younger than me, and she is out there fighting right alongside the men. And there are hundreds and hundreds of women who are doing that. Granted, every man in Ukraine has to serve in the military. It doesn't matter. The people who were cowards and tried to flee the country were rightfully stopped at the border and sent back to the front lines. Those men who continued to work at their jobs were not. The conscripts in the Ukrainian army are a levy that every man in Ukraine has a public duty to engage in. Just like when we used to have the draft here in the U.S. Now, the governments of Ukraine, it is an oligarchy. Yes, it is. They call themselves a democracy, but they're not. They're really an oligarchy. Same as Russia. There are no good guys in the governments here. But that land belongs to Ukraine. That is not Russian land. There is no justification that can be given. Just because Ukraine was buddying up to the West is like, it's equivalent to having a girlfriend that you're no longer going out with and you telling her, if you go out with that other guy, I'm going to come over there and beat you up and rape you. There is no moral justification for this war. It is a war of expansion. The Russians have always, and I mean for centuries, been expansionistic. Being a neighbor of these people is a very dangerous thing. And having Ukraine wanting to buddy up with the West so that they're part of NATO and they're not under the boot of Putin is a completely logical way to go about it. There's a lot of fanboys out there for Putin. I agree with Putin on a lot of his moralistic approaches. I do not agree with the degradation and debauchery of the West. We have some absolute frickin' perverts and their goddamn alphabet mafia out there who want to change the fundamental parts of society. And let me tell you, most of Ukraine is pretty based. Women over there don't make as much money as men because, listen to this, the culture and the society says that you must pay men more so they can support their families while their wives stay home and raise children. But they do not actively suppress women from working if they feel like it. But the culture and society is set up to support the family. If you think that's going to change, you've got another thing coming. That is not how those people live. It's not who they are. I am sick and tired of fucking self-righteous bastards who don't know a thing about the country telling me to fuck off. And I'm tired of you brothers shoving this anti-Ukrainian propaganda because it's Russian propaganda and you're fools to fucking back Russia on this. Putin is a goddamn evil bastard. He really is an evil bastard. Now, is Ukraine perfect? Hell no. In Ukraine, every province is responsible for raising a militia, basically an armed police force. And one of those provinces, the only province that did not support Zelensky in this war, is where the Antonov battalion comes from. And they are Nazis. They are real fucking Nazis, with roots going all the way back to World War II, where they opposed the Russians when the Germans invaded. They looked at the Germans as liberators. That part of Ukraine used to be part of the former Austro-Hungarian Empire, and they didn't like it when the Russians took them over after World War I. They were persecuted. They were starved. 13 million Ukrainians died under the Soviets in the year 1932-33 over that winter. They were starved to death. And of course, they hated the Soviets and still do to this day. So I can kind of understand where they're coming from, even though I don't agree with the Nazism. I would have opposed the Soviets any way I could too. But there's only like 600 or so of those guys out there in the whole Ukrainian military. And a lot of them got their asses shot off when they tried to make a last stand at a chemical factory. So I don't even know how many are left. Getting good numbers from this war is damn near impossible because both sides lie and inflate the number of people that they're killed. But two things are for certain. The Ukrainians kicked the Russians out of the north of Ukraine. They beat the fuck out of them and sent them on their way. And now they're pushing south and liberating vast tracts of land. So, love them or not, you don't have to fucking, even have an opinion. But stop shoving propaganda in brothers' faces who don't understand. And especially when you don't really understand what's out there either. I'm tired of having people tell me to fuck off. I'm tired of hearing all the goddamn Russian fanboys out there. Putin is not a fucking panacea for men's rights. He is a goddamn evil bastard. He's an oligarch. And, just because I agree with him on a lot of social issues does not mean that I'm going to justify this war. Now, come to the West, providing material support in the form of billions of dollars in aid. I ain't for that either. But my friends and relatives are. And they thank us. Every one of us. So, don't blame the people. They're just defending their homes against the goddamn invaders. Don't blame the people. And this would never have happened if Biden hadn't shown such weakness when we withdrew from Afghanistan. So if you want to blame anybody, blame that fucktard. This war is because he is weak. Putin wouldn't have messed with Ukraine. They had a situation where there was detente. I lived there. I know. You show weakness to those people, though, forget about it. They'll fucking eat you up and spit you out. I'm glad, though, that Putin miscalculated and that the fucking execution of the Russian army was so terrible. It was really a joke. Now they've lost 20% of their armor. They can't even fucking pay their troops now. I have friends in Russia as well who are telling me that only about 15% of the deaths that are occurring in Ukraine are being reported publicly. There are graves popping up with grave markers, and the family only finds out about it after the body has been buried. So the Russian boys are coming home in body bags. Now, is that the only ones who are being killed? No, it's not. And are war crimes being committed over there? Yes, they are. Do we as Americans have any obligation to go over there and stick our noses in that? No, we do not. We have no treaty obligations with those people. And I hope this fucking thing doesn't blow up in our face. But if it does, I know who's going to start it. You know, the Russians fought a proxy war against us in Afghanistan, the same way we did to them back when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan. Russian and American troops have had head-to-head confrontations in Syria, but we've been able to keep that stuff at a low level for decades. For decades. Does it need to go into a hot war? No. We're just going to keep fucking with each other. That's my prediction. All of those who would disagree with me, you're feel to feel however you want. But stop telling me to fuck off. It's insulting. And it's really over something that neither one of us, or none of us, have any control over. So, go Ukraine. The people are good people. And the food is awesome. Music sucks, though.